Welcome to From Vision to Venture, the podcast for entrepreneurs, dreamers, and changemakers ready to turn ideas into thriving businesses. I'm Neville Solomon, and each week we'll explore the strategies, mindsets, and practical steps needed to start, grow, and scale successful ventures. Because every great business starts with a vision, and your journey starts right here.
Welcome to another episode of From Vision to Venture, the podcast where we help entrepreneurs turn great ideas into sustainable, revenue-generating businesses.
And we have a really intense topic today.
We really do. I mean, did you know that right now there are probably, millions of founders just sitting in coffee shops right this second?
Oh, definitely. Just agonizing over the perfect hex code for their new logo.
Exactly. Building these businesses that, unfortunately, will be completely dead in 6 months.
It's sad, but it's the reality for most of them.
Right. They're pouring their life savings into this dream, completely unaware that they are basically engineering their own failure before they even launch.
Yeah, they're setting the trap themselves.
So today we are doing a deep dive into the insights of Neville F. Solomon, and we're looking at the framework developed by Tikva Pathways.
Specifically, we're looking at their startup readiness model.
Right, because we want to find out exactly why this happens to so many people. And their core philosophy, which I love, is that a successful business begins with a prepared founder.
And that preparation, it happens in the dark, long before any ribbon-cutting ceremony or, big launch party.
Which is why we need to talk about this. I mean, what is the mission of this deep dive today? It's really to answer that central, almost painful question for you, the listener. Why do so many great business ideas fail?
It's a phenomenal framework to examine, really, because it forces us to confront this very uncomfortable reality.
We do love the romance of a startup, don't we?
We do. We live in this business culture that just completely romanticizes the launch. The press release, the sleek website going live.
A big announcement on LinkedIn with the rocket ship emoji.
Exactly, the rocket emojis. But the historical data is brutal.
Yeah.
And it's unequivocal. Businesses just do not survive because of a grand launch or some visionary concept.
Having a good idea is just like the price of admission, right?
That's all it is. The businesses that actually survive do so because founders execute in the real world. They build resilient systems.
Systems that don't just rely on their own sheer willpower.
Right. And they intimately understand the psychology of their customers. Plus, they actually engineer a deliberate mechanism to capture value, to generate revenue.
Which brings us to our stack of notes here. We've got these 4 massive roadblocks, these foundational pillars where founders usually just collapse.
We should probably start with the biggest illusion of all.
The myth of the $1 million idea.
Yes. The great idea without any execution.
Right, because there's this incredibly common trap where you start believing the idea itself is an asset.
Oh, people get so protective over it.
They really do. You see people being highly secretive, making people sign NDAs just to hear a pitch in a Starbucks.
Like it's state secrets or something.
Exactly. But Tikva Pathways material argues that we need to make this massive shift from just imagination to physical action.
Because the idea phase is arguably the most seductive trap in business.
Why is it so seductive, though?
Well, because ideas are completely free of friction. Like, in your imagination, your idea is flawless.
Oh, for sure. The code never breaks in your head.
Right. The customers never complain, they always pay on time, and your profit margins are always, 80%.
Which is a fantasy.
A complete fantasy. Everyone has ideas. I mean, you can walk into any pub or coffee shop and find someone who's been talking about this app they want to build for the last 5 years.
Oh, I know that guy. We all know that guy.
Right, because the idea phase is this comfortable, sterile environment. But execution, taking an abstract concept and forcing it into physical reality, is exceedingly rare.
Because it's scary.
Exactly. It introduces the very real possibility of rejection.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because I want to push back. Treating the idea as the business, I feel like that's like buying a gym membership and thinking you're already in shape.
That is a great analogy.
Right. Like planning is the membership, but execution is actually lifting the heavyweights.
Yes, and people confuse the two all the time.
But is it just fear of rejection, or is it a misunderstanding of what work actually is? Because when I talk to early stage founders, they're like, I'm working 12-hour days.
Right, they're exhausted.
Yeah. They're writing 50-page business plans. They're tweaking the UI on their prototype, making spreadsheets. They aren't just sitting on the couch.
Well, what's fascinating here is that what you were describing is what psychologists actually call productive procrastination.
Productive procrastination. I love that term.
It's dangerous, though, because when you are writing a business plan or picking out brand colors on Canva, your brain is releasing dopamine.
You feel like you're doing something important.
You feel a sense of accomplishment. It chemically mimics the neurological reward of actual work. But you are essentially hiding in a sandbox.
A sandbox where the market can't judge you.
Exactly. Real execution means colliding your idea with the real world.
Getting out of the sandbox.
Getting out of the sandbox. It means validating your assumptions by putting a rough, ugly version of your product in front of a complete stranger.
And asking them if it actually solves their problem, which is terrifying.
It is. It's so much easier to stay in the planning phase.
So it's the difference between drawing a blueprint of an engine and actually getting your hands covered in grease to build the cylinders.
Precisely. You can have the most mathematically perfect blueprint in the world.
But it's not going anywhere.
Right. Until you introduce combustion, it's not an engine. It's a piece of paper. Execution means making those incredibly uncomfortable sales calls where someone might just flat out tell you your idea is terrible.
Which hurts, but it's necessary.
It means testing a physical product that might fall apart in the user's hands. Because businesses only grow when founders continuously solve problems and measure results.
Instead of just hiding.
Right. You cannot learn how the market reacts from inside the sterile environment of a planning document. You have to learn from failure.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Oh, for it.
If I launch too early with this ugly product you're talking about, don't I risk burning my reputation?
That's the classic fear.
Like, if my first interaction with a potential client is a clunky prototype, they might just write me off forever. Isn't there a legitimate case for staying in the planning phase until the product is polished?
That is literally the standard defense mechanism founders use to justify staying in their comfort zone.
Really? So you think it's just an excuse?
Absolutely. Let's look at the actual mechanics of early stage growth.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you are building like aerospace software where failure means physical harm.
Right, where the stakes are life and death.
Exactly. Unless it's that, your early reputation is virtually non-existent. You are a ghost.
Nobody knows who you are anyway.
Right. The fear of ruining your brand assumes people are paying close attention to you, which, frankly, they aren't.
That's a harsh reality check, but it's true.
The risk of building in a vacuum for a year and launching a polished product that nobody actually wants is infinitely higher than the risk of showing a clunky prototype to a beta tester.
Wow. Yeah.
The Tikva Pathways framework stresses that execution is a feedback loop. You aren't just selling a product, you are buying data.
You're buying data. I like that.
Every time a customer says no, they are giving you the precise coordinates of where your idea fails to meet reality.
That completely reframes the concept of failure.
It has to.
Because if you view a no as a personal rejection, you hide. You stay on Canva. But if you view a no as data acquisition, you aggressively seek it out.
You start hunting for the no.
Right. It fundamentally shifts how you evaluate your daily output. Instead of asking, how good is my idea today, you start asking, what physical collision with reality did I facilitate today?
Exactly. And the source material poses a very direct, somewhat uncomfortable question to the listener right now. What action have you taken this week that actually moved your business forward?
And refining a pitch deck for the 14th time doesn't count.
It absolutely does not count. Moving the business forward means you acquired a new data point from the real world.
You got a yes or a hard no.
Or you broke a process, or you fixed a bug based on real user feedback. You have to break the seal in reality.
Okay, so let's follow that trajectory. Let's say a founder listening to this takes that to heart. They stop tweaking the logo, they pick up the phone, they start doing the ugly work of execution.
Good for them.
And then the terrifying thing happens. It actually works.
The best problem to have.
The market responds. They start getting clients, processing orders, money is changing hands. At that moment, the founder feels like a genius.
Top of the world.
But the framework suggests that this exact moment of initial success is where a completely new hidden trap springs, shut on them. The bottleneck trap.
Yes, the lack of systems. You've introduced combustion, the engine is running, and now the vehicle is accelerating.
But it's shaking.
Right. If you haven't built the chassis to handle the speed, the vehicle will literally shake itself to pieces.
Because you just can't keep up.
This is the transition from the problem of execution to the problem of capacity.
So what does that look like on the ground?
Well, in the earliest days, startups run almost entirely on the unadulterated adrenaline of the founder.
Oh, yeah. Late nights, lots of coffee.
The founder is the engine, the transmission, and the steering wheel. They personally handle every single customer email. They manually generate every invoice.
They're negotiating with every single supplier.
Every single one.
Because they have to, right? I mean, in the beginning, you don't have the capital to hire a massive team. You have to be the chief everything officer.
That's the reality of starting up.
And honestly, it feels amazing. You are intimately connected to every pulse of the business. You know every customer by name. It creates this intoxicating feedback loop.
We feel utterly indispensable.
Exactly. You feel like a superhero.
It is intoxicating. Yeah, but it is also highly, highly unscalable.
Because there's only one of you.
Right. As the execution works and growth happens, the volume of those microtransactions increases exponentially.
You go from 3 orders a week to 50 orders a day.
And suddenly, the fact that you know every customer by name isn't a competitive advantage anymore, it's a cognitive bottleneck.
You just have more inquiries than you can physically answer in a 24-hour period.
Things start slipping through the cracks. An email goes unanswered for 3 days. A supplier order is delayed because you just forgot to hit send on a late-night purchase order.
And the customers start getting mad.
Right. The founder transforms from the visionary architect of the business into the primary obstruction preventing its growth.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. So the very traits that made the founder successful in phase 1, their obsessive control, their willingness to manually push every boulder up the hill.
Their grit.
Right, their grit. Those become the exact things that will kill the business in phase 2.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, which leads us directly into the necessity of systems. But I have to say, when you talk to highly creative, visionary founders, the word systems makes their eyes just glaze over.
Oh, I hate it.
Doesn't building strict, documented, rigid processes kind of kill that fiery, agile startup passion we all love? I mean, we start businesses for freedom, not to write standard operating procedures.
That is the ultimate paradox of entrepreneurship. Founders flee the corporate world because they hate bureaucracy, so they intentionally build businesses with zero structure.
Total freedom. Or so they think.
But what they eventually discover is that chaos is a far more tyrannical boss than any corporate manager could ever be.
Oh, wow. Chaos is a tyrannical boss. That hits hard.
Because if everything relies on your working memory, you don't actually own a business. You own a high-stress job with terrible hours and no benefits.
And you can never take a vacation.
Never. Systems don't kill freedom. Systems are the only mechanism that can actually manufacture freedom.
Okay, walk us through the mechanics of that, because it sounds a bit abstract. How does documenting a sales process equal freedom?
Let's look at the concept of cognitive load. Every time a founder without systems encounters a routine task.
Like what? Give me an example.
Let's say a new lead fills out a contact form on the website. Their brain has to expend energy deciding what to do next.
Okay, I need to email them back.
Right. What's the pricing again?
Yeah.
Where did I save that PDF brochure? Did I remember to follow up with the person from Tuesday?
Your brain is just spinning.
That mental friction, multiplied by 50 decisions a day, leads to profound decision fatigue.
You're just exhausted by noon.
Exactly. By building a system, you are offloading that cognitive burden into a documented process or a piece of technology.
Like a CRM, you mean? A customer relationship management tool.
Exactly. And a CRM isn't just software. It represents a behavioral shift. It acts as an external brain.
An external brain.
Yes. Instead of relying on your flawed human memory to remember to follow up with a prospect in 3 days, the CRM is programmed to automatically surface that task.
Or even send the email for you while you're sleeping.
Exactly. When you shift your mindset from, how do I personally solve this problem right now, to, how do I architect a system that solves this problem consistently without my intervention? Bodily, you reclaim your cognitive bandwidth. You get your brain back. But practically speaking, if I'm a solopreneur, taking 3 days out of my week to map out my workflows and automate my CRM, I mean, that feels like it's stealing precious time away from getting actual clients.
It feels counterintuitive.
Right. How do I justify that time sink when cash flow is super tight?
You justify it by looking at the pure math of scaling.
Okay, do the math for me.
If it takes you 15 minutes to manually process an order and you get 10 orders a day, that's 2.5 hours of your day gone, just on admin.
Which is a huge chunk of time.
Now, if you spend 20 hours building an automated checkout and fulfillment integration, you earn back those 2.5 hours every single day forever.
So it pays for itself pretty fast.
You hit the break-even point on your time investment in less than 2 weeks.
Wow, 2 weeks.
And beyond that, the business becomes an asset that has value independent of your daily labor.
Meaning you can actually step away. If you get sick for a week, a systemized business continues to process orders and generate revenue. An unsystemized business simply grinds to a halt and begins to die.
So you're essentially building a machine that operates seamlessly, whether you are physically pushing the gears or not,
You move from being the operator inside the machine
Yeah.
to the engineer standing outside of it.
which is where you need to be to actually steer the ship. And the notes here point out several critical areas that demand this kind of
And
systemization.
it's not just sales.
Right. It's customer inquiries, sales follow-ups, inventory, financial tracking, and team communication.
Yes. If you don't systemize those, your growth will always be capped by your personal exhaustion point.
Your burnout is the ceiling of the business.
Precisely. But this brings us to a really fascinating juncture.
Okay, where are we heading now?
Well, let's assume you've done the hard work. You've executed in the real world. You've built this beautifully efficient, highly automated machine.
The CRM is humming.
Right. It can handle 1,000 orders a minute without you lifting a finger.
Yeah.
But here's the terrifying part.
Hit me.
What if that beautifully efficient machine is mass-producing a solution that nobody actually wants to buy?
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Scaling a highly efficient operation before you have absolute clarity on who you are selling to is how you efficiently engineer your own bankruptcy.
You just burn through cash faster.
Exactly.
Which transitions us perfectly from the internal mechanics of the business to the external reality of the market. And this is the third major failure point identified in the sources. The illusion of the universal customer.
The everyone illusion.
Yes. You ask a passionate founder, who is your product for? And they almost always puff out their chest and say, honestly, it's for everyone.
Anyone with a pulse.
Right. Anyone who wants to save time, anyone who wants to live better. It sounds incredibly ambitious, but the framework suggests this is actually a fatal symptom of intellectual laziness.
It is the ultimate cowardice in marketing.
Cowardice, that's a strong word.
It is, but it's true.
Yeah.
Choosing a specific audience requires you to simultaneously decide who you are not going to serve.
And founders hate that.
They are terrified of leaving potential money on the table. But the physics of marketing dictate that if you try to speak to everyone, your message becomes so diluted and generic that it resonates with absolutely no one.
If everyone is your customer, no one is.
Exactly. Think about it in terms of acoustic resonance.
Okay, I like analogies.
If you broadcast a radio signal across every single frequency simultaneously, it just sounds like white noise and static.
Yeah.
People tune it out instantly.
Right, it's just a buzz.
But if you concentrate all that power into one specific frequency, it comes through as a crystal clear song to the person tuned into that channel.
So what does this all mean? It's like trying to use a Swiss Army knife for brain surgery.
Yes.
A general tool is okay for everyone, but people pay for a specialized scalpel.
I love that. It completely dismantles the everyone myth.
But, a founder might argue, look at Amazon. They sell everything to everyone.
And that is a fundamental misreading of business history.
Yeah, so.
Amazon did not start by selling everything to everyone. In the 1995, Amazon sold one specific thing, books, to a very specific demographic of early internet adopters who were readers.
Oh, right. They were just a bookstore.
They dominated a tiny, hyper-specific niche first, built their systems, and only expanded horizontally over decades.
So they earned the right to sell to everyone.
Exactly. If you try to be the 2024 version of Amazon in your first year, you will bleed capital until you die. You must know exactly who has the specific problem you are solving, who is actively looking for a solution, and most importantly, who has the economic capacity to pay for it.
This goes far deeper than just basic demographics, right?
Way deeper.
Because it's not enough to say, my target audience is women between the ages of 30 and 50 who live in urban areas.
No, that's way too broad.
That describes millions of people with wildly different psychological motivations. How do we actually narrow that down?
Demographics tell you who someone is on a census form. Psychographics tell you what keeps them awake staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning.
The 2 a.m. anxiety.
The Startup Readiness Framework points out a profound truth that founders routinely ignore. Customers do not buy products. They never have.
What do they buy then?
They buy outcomes.
Yeah.
They buy the alleviation of pain.
Okay, give me an example of that.
If you are selling a B2B project management software, you might think you are selling a synergistic workflow optimization tool with an intuitive dashboard.
That sounds like every tech pitch ever.
Right, that is the feature.
Yeah.
But the customer is not buying a dashboard. They are buying the ability to leave the office at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday without having a panic attack about what their team is dropping.
Oh, wow.
They're buying an extra hour with their kids. They're buying the feeling of being in control.
That That is a staggering shift in perspective.
It changes everything.
Because if I think I'm selling software, I'm going to market the code, the speed, the integrations. But if I realize I'm selling peace of mind, my entire communication strategy changes.
You're no longer talking about megabytes.
I'm talking about blood pressure.
Yes. And that brings us to the most critical aspect of customer clarity, which is language.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, language is how we signal that we understand them.
Exactly. If you do not intimately understand the psychological state of your target customer, you will speak to them using industry jargon that makes you feel smart, but alienates them completely.
Like the synergistic workflow stuff.
Right. If a customer's internal monologue is, I am drowning in emails and I feel like I'm failing at my job, and your marketing copy says, leverage our enterprise-grade asynchronous communication matrix, you completely miss each other.
It's just noise to them.
You have to intercept the exact conversation already happening in their head. When you mirror their own words back to them, they instantly assume you have the solution.
They say, wow, this person gets exactly what I'm going through.
Exactly. It makes designing products and communicating value infinitely easier and prevents wasting money on broad, unfocused marketing.
Which requires actual listening. You can't guess their internal monologue from behind your laptop. You have to get out there and conduct market research.
Real market research.
But founders usually view market research as like a one-time college assignment they do before launch, write a persona document, put it in a drawer, and never look at it again.
And that is why they slowly lose market share over time.
Emphasis moves on.
The source material emphasizes that market research is not an event. It is an ongoing, never-ending conversation.
Markets are biological ecosystems, right? They evolve.
Competitors introduce new baselines, macroeconomic conditions change, and the specific frustrations of your customers shift over time.
So what bothered them in 2023 isn't what bothers them today.
The problem you solved for them 2 years ago might not be the problem that keeps them up tonight. If your understanding of the customer remains static while their reality evolves, your beautifully engineered systems will start producing solutions that are entirely obsolete.
Okay, so let's tie these threads together, because we are building a narrative here.
Let's do it.
You've thought through the productive procrastination and actually executed in the real world. You've swallowed your pride and built automated systems so you aren't the bottleneck.
Check and check.
You have laser-focused clarity on who your customer is. You know their pain points, and you are speaking their exact language. The solution is resonating. You have a business, right?
Well, not necessarily.
Wait, really? After all that?
After all that, you have a highly optimized machine that solves a problem. But whether it survives depends entirely on the fourth and final pillar, capturing value.
The revenue strategy.
Yes, you have a heart, you have veins, but unless you introduce a blood supply, the organism will die. This is the build it and they will pay fallacy.
The absolute lack of a deliberate revenue strategy.
Which is shockingly common.
I see this constantly. Founders get so consumed by the nobility of solving the problem, perfecting the UX, optimizing the supply chain, writing brilliant marketing copy, that they treat the actual mechanics of making money as an afterthought.
It's almost like they believe if the product is just good enough, the universe will magically reward them with a profitable bank account.
Like karma is going to pay the rent.
It's a dangerous mix of idealism and financial illiteracy. Revenue cannot be a secondary consideration. The mechanism of how you charge, what you charge, and the margins you maintain must be baked into the DNA of the product from day one.
Because revenue isn't an afterthought. It validates the entire business.
It is the ultimate, undeniable validation. People will compliment your product all day long because compliments cost them nothing.
Oh, what a cool app.
Right, I totally use that. But a business is only validated in the exact moment a customer is willing to endure the friction of handing over their hard-earned capital.
When they actually pull out the credit card.
If you don't have a strategy to mandate and optimize that exchange, you don't have a business. You have a very expensive, highly stressful, philanthropic hobby.
Okay, let's talk about the psychology behind this, because I don't think founders ignore revenue just because they are bad at math.
No, it's deeper than that.
Is it possible that founders avoid building a revenue strategy because asking for money invites the ultimate rejection of their perfect idea?
You've hit the nail on the head.
Like, if I never firmly ask you for $500, I never have to hear you say, your life's work isn't worth $500 to me.
That is exactly it. Asking for money pierces the protective bubble of the founder's ego. It forces a confrontation with objective reality.
Because sales generate the most honest feedback.
This raises an important question about sustainability, right? Income creates sustainability. This is why founders chronically underprice their goods or offer endless free trials.
They call it a market penetration strategy.
But really, it's imposter syndrome disguised as strategy. Chronic underpricing destroys businesses because it ignores the fundamental mathematics of survival.
You cannot scale a broken economic model.
You just go break faster.
Let's dive deep into those mechanics because the sources list several vital metrics that every entrepreneur must know, but they usually ignore until their accountant tells them they are bankrupt.
The dreaded metrics.
Right. Pricing strategy, customer acquisition cost, profitability per sale, conversion rates, cash flow, and potential for recurring revenue.
All critical.
Let's pick two of these and look at how they interact under the hood. How about customer acquisition cost, or CAC, and profitability per sale?
Oh, that is the most lethal intersection in business economics.
Okay, break it down for us.
Imagine them as a seesaw. Customer acquisition cost is the total amount of money you have to spend on marketing, advertising, sales salaries, and software to acquire one single paying customer.
Okay.
Let's create a hypothetical scenario. You run an e-commerce brand selling a physical product for $100. You think, great, every time the register rings, I make $100.
Right. Top line revenue looks fantastic. The Shopify app is pinging. Dopamine is flowing.
Exactly. But let's look at the hidden architecture of that $100. It costs you $40 to manufacture and ship the product. Your gross margin is $60.
Sounds pretty good.
But how did you get that customer? You were running Facebook ads. You were paying marketing agency. When you divide your total marketing spend by the number of new customers, you realize it costs you $75 in ad spend to get one person to click buy.
Oh, wow. So you have a $60 profit margin on the physical good, but you paid $75 to acquire the customer.
Precisely. Which means every single time your register rings, you are not making money. You are losing $15.
You are physically bleeding out with every transaction.
And this is the tragedy of a business without a revenue strategy. If this founder successfully executes and scales their marketing, they will just go bankrupt faster.
They are paying for the privilege of losing money at volume.
Without knowing how money flows in, how often customers buy, and your profit margins, the business is just a hobby.
That is terrifying, because if you only look at your top-line revenue, you might see $100,000 in sales and think you are a massive success, while your bank account is secretly draining to zero.
It happens every day.
How does a founder fix a broken model like that? Do they just raise prices?
Raising prices is one lever, sure, but it requires that deep customer clarity we talked about earlier. If you raise prices, you have to ensure the perceived value matches the new cost.
Otherwise, they stop buying.
Right. The other lever is lowering the customer acquisition cost by improving your marketing resonance, speaking clearer language so ads convert better.
Making your marketing more efficient.
But the most powerful lever, which the Tikva Pathways framework heavily emphasizes, is the transition from single transaction models to recurring revenue or high lifetime value LTV.
Meaning you don't just want the customer to buy once, you need them to come back over and over again.
Exactly. If we go back to our e-commerce example, if you lose $15 on that first sale, but you have built a system.
The system, right?
Yes, like a post-purchase email sequence or a stellar customer experience, a system that ensures that same customer buys from you 3 more times over the next year at 0 additional acquisition cost.
Because you already have their email, you don't have to pay Facebook again.
Exactly. The math completely flips. The first sale was a loss leader, but the subsequent sales are pure profit.
That makes total sense.
This is why understanding cash flow dynamics and lifetime value is critical. A single transaction model is incredibly fragile. You wake up every month at 0, forced to hunt for new customers just to pay the rent.
Exhausting.
Recurring revenue, or high repeat purchase rates, smooths out those chaotic cash flow spikes. It provides the oxygen that allows you to hire better talent, improve your systems, and actually breathe.
It's the difference between being a hunter-gatherer who has to kill something every single day to survive versus an agrarian society that plants seeds and yields predictable crops over time.
I love that. That's a perfect way to put it.
So looking at the entire landscape we've covered today, we started with a very daunting premise.
We did.
Why do brilliant, world-changing ideas fail? And looking at the startup readiness material, the anatomy of failure is deeply logical.
It's completely predictable.
Great ideas fail because they remain trapped in the sterile environment of the founder's imagination. Execution never happens because productive procrastination feels safer.
Right.
They fail because the founder's ego refuses to build systems, turning the visionary into a fatal bottleneck.
They choke their own business.
They fail because the business tries to speak to everyone, broadcasting static instead of a clear signal to a hyper-specific audience.
The universal illusion.
And they fail because the founder ignores the brutal mathematics of capturing value, opting to scale unprofitable transactions until the capital runs dry.
It paints a stark picture.
I know.
But I think it is the most empowering realization an entrepreneur can have.
Really empowering.
Absolutely. Because the inverse of everything we just discussed is where absolute agency lies. The myth of the chosen entrepreneur is dead.
There is no magic touch.
Success is not a lottery ticket granted someone who had a mystical, once-in-a-generation epiphany in the shower. Success is an architectural feat.
It's built, not discovered.
It is achieved by prepared founders who aggressively force their ideas to collide with reality, who are humble enough to offload their cognitive load into resilient systems.
Who listen to the 2.0's AM anxieties of a very specific demographic.
And who engineer a mathematical model that extracts more value than it costs to operate. Every single one of these 4 roadblocks is a solvable engineering problem.
Which brings us to the crucial next step for you, the listener. If you are sitting there right now and a pit has formed in your stomach because you realize you are hiding in Canva designing logos instead of making sales calls,
We've all been there.
or you realize you are the bottleneck answering every email, or you have absolutely no idea what your customer acquisition cost is, what is the actionable move to get off that path to failure?
Well, the sources highlight a highly specific tool designed for this exact moment of realization. The Startup Readiness Assessment by Tixa Pathways.
What does that do?
It is an analytical diagnostic tool that forces you to evaluate your actual preparation across all these vectors before the market punishes you for your blind spots.
So it's like an X-ray for your business plan.
Exactly. It looks mercilessly at founder readiness, your operational systems, your customer validation data, and the actual mechanics of your revenue strategy.
Saving you from costly mistakes.
Taking an honest, rigorous look at these areas allows you to identify where the cracks in your foundation are and pour concrete into them before you invest another year of your life or another dollar of your savings into a compromised structure.
It's about achieving absolute clarity on where you currently stand rather than operating on the delusion of where you hope you stand.
That's the key.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, building on what we've unpacked today. We talked about how market research is an ongoing biological conversation with your audience.
An ongoing conversation.
But I want you to look at your calendar for the last 30 days and ask yourself, how often did you actually let a customer talk without actively trying to sell them something?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Think about your absolute best, most loyal customer right now. If you bought them a coffee today, what would their biggest frustration be right in this specific moment? Not the problem they had when you first built your product 3 years ago, but today.
It changes.
If you don't know the answer to that, your systems are running blindly into the past. Evolving your understanding of their pain is the daily execution that separates a stagnant vision from a living venture.
That's a great thought to end on.
Great businesses are not built on ideas alone. Keep moving from vision to venture. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If this analysis illuminated a blind spot for you, send this to a fellow entrepreneur who is in the trenches right now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me on From Vision to Venture. Remember, successful businesses aren't built overnight. They're built through clarity, consistency, and the courage to take the next step. Every entrepreneur starts with a vision, but it's intentional action that turns that vision into a venture.